On today's show, the East runs through Cleveland. We'll talk about that, plus the Cavs win over the Chicago Bulls. Darius Garland's big night on today's edition of Locked On Cavs.
You are Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? My name is Danny Cunningham. You might know me from my time covering the Cleveland Cavaliers, places like my Substack, The Inside Shot, Cleveland Magazine, 92.3 The Fan, and a number of other stops along the way. I want to say thank you to you for making Locked On Cavs your first listen today and every day. You can find the show anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, anywhere else. Drop us a 5-star rating. Leave us a nice review. Be a friend. Tell a friend about Locked On Cavs. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure a friend is subscribed as well. And if you're watching the show on YouTube, do me a favor. Hit that thumbs up button for me, click subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the latest Locked On Cavs content, a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. The Eastern Conference, once again, runs through Cleveland. Tristan Thompson said something similar to those words way back in 2018 after LeBron James left the Cavs for the Los Angeles Lakers. And, of course, at that point, the East no longer ran through Cleveland. But now, once again, the Cavs will be the top seed in the Eastern Conference for the fourth time in franchise history. It's the first time since 2016 the Cavs will finish the regular season with the best record in the conference. They won their 63rd game of the season on Tuesday by beating the Chicago Bulls 135-113. And we will get to a lot of stuff about this game in specific coming up in a little bit. But I think that this is a really good point to sort of reflect on what this season has been so far, because we don't know what these final three games are going to mean. Well, we know that they're not going to mean much. We don't know who's going to play in them. We don't know what the rest of the season is going to look like. And when the playoffs arrive, obviously, that is going to mean much more. And ultimately, the Cavs will be judged upon what they do in the postseason. But I do think that this is a moment, a mark worth celebrating for the Cavs. I think for Cavs fans, it's just something you should be extremely happy about, because this isn't something that comes around very often. The Cavs have won 63 games. It is, at worst, going to be the second best season in Cavs history. If the Cavs win the remaining 3 games, it will tie the 2008-2009 Cavs for the most wins in franchise history. And this team has been special since day one. They obviously began the season on a 15-game winning streak. Along the way, they've had a winning streak of 12 games. They've had a winning streak of 16 games as well. It hasn't always been perfect, and I think that there are some things to, you can point at over the last month or so that you can say, they could have done this better, they could have done this better. But ultimately, from wire to wire, the Cavs have been the best team in the Eastern Conference. And for most of the season, they were the best team in the NBA. That obviously has not necessarily been the case because of the last month and what OKC has done. But overall, the Cavs have earned this, and they've earned this for a number of different reasons, because Evan Mobley has taken such a big step up this year on both ends of the floor. They've earned this because Donovan Mitchell's willingness to accept a little bit of a lesser role on the floor and a bigger role in terms of leadership. They've earned this because Kenny Atkinson has been fantastic and, in my opinion, should be the coach of the year, no questions asked. They've earned this because Darius Garland has returned to all-star form this season. All of those things individually you could look at and say, you know what, that's something I would have expected. I expected, if you listen to this podcast, I expected Darius Garland to bounce back in a major way off of what last season, the nightmare it was for him. I expected Evan Mobley to take a pretty big leap on both ends of the floor this year. I was somebody who never sold my Evan Mobley stock. I've been a firm believer in him from day one. I thought Kenny Atkinson would do a lot of really good things for this team, for this organization. I thought Donovan Mitchell would, again, be a really great basketball player, because that's all he's been while he's been in Cleveland, is be a top 10 player in basketball. And he's going to finish 5th in MVP voting, I do believe, this year. But ultimately, getting all of those things to mesh the way that they have for the Cavs this season is a really, really difficult thing to do. And I don't want to sit here and say that the Cavs caught lightning in a bottle, because I do think that what they have, what they've done, I think it's sustainable stuff. Like, I don't think this is a thing where the Cavs are just going to pop up out of nowhere, have a season where they win 63, 64, 65, or 66 games, and then go back to being just, they're a good team the rest of the way. I think that this is a team that is built to have substantial long-term success. And I think that this is maybe not just the start of it, because the last couple of years have been pretty good. But I do think that this is something where you can envision the Cavs being a team that is at or near the top of the Eastern Conference for several years to come. And I think that this is a night worth remembering, because the Cavs now are this team, the fourth team in franchise history to be the number 1 seed. The Eastern Conference runs through Cleveland in the postseason. Every series that they have leading up to the finals is guaranteed to begin in Cleveland. Should they need to go to 7 games to win any of those series, that game 7 will take place in Cleveland. That's a really big deal, especially for a team that has not been there and done that in the postseason. They've been to the second round once as a group. They don't have as much postseason experience as Boston does, where Boston has been in the conference finals so many years in the last 10 years, and they won the finals. They've been to another finals. The Cavs don't have that. But what they have now is home court advantage, and they worked really hard to earn that. And that is something that I think should be celebrated. Like, this season has been special. There have been a lot of really great moments. And I don't know that the Cavs, I guess to be critical, I don't know if the Cavs have done a great job of celebrating those moments. Like, they won 15 games in a row, and it was, we haven't done anything yet. They had another 12-game winning streak. They hadn't done anything yet. This past 16-game winning streak that ended in the month of March, they hadn't done anything yet. And while that is true, because they haven't reached those goals, they didn't enter this season with a goal of, hey, we want to, have a 15-game winning streak, or we want to have a 16-game winning streak, or we want to do both and have a 12-game winning streak. Like, that's not what a goal was. And I'm not even sure that a goal before the season was to finish with the best record in the Eastern Conference, because I don't necessarily think anyone saw this type of regular season success coming. I bet that there were people internally that felt better maybe about their postseason chances than their regular season chances, just because I think there were probably more growing pains anticipated with Kenny Atkinson than what actually has transpired, where they just hit the ground running and were awesome right away. But I don't think anyone envisioned 60 plus games. I know Kenny Atkinson didn't. He's gone on record as saying such, that he thought if they could just improve from their 48 win mark last year, he'd be happy with what they could do. And obviously they've done that and so much more. They're 15 games clear of that with 3 games left to play. But this is something that should be celebrated. We don't know what's going to happen with the Cavs in the postseason. I feel very confident about them getting to a conference finals and taking on the Boston Celtics, and we'll see what happens from that point on. I think anything after that is a toss-up. And, maybe if they get to the finals against a team that's not OKC, you feel much better than if they were to play Oklahoma City. Maybe that's not necessarily a toss-up, but I think at that point, anything pretty much is. And maybe they win the title. Maybe they win the East. Maybe they don't do either of those things. I don't know. But I do know that winning 63 games is really, really hard. Being the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference is really, really hard. And these are things that are worth celebrating, because I do think so often in professional sports, it's, did you win the title? And if the answer is yes, your season was a massive success. If your answer is no, the season's not a success. I don't think that should be true. I don't like that that's how we often view professional sports. Now, is this season for the Cavs going to be a massive success if they don't win the title? I don't know. But I do know that this season for the Cavs, no matter what happens, unless they were to lose in the first round, that's just not going to happen. It's going to be really hard for me to look at this Cavs season and say, you know what? That was anything other than a success. They've been a great team all year long. And they've earned, I think, the right to celebrate this a little bit. This doesn't mean the work is over. This doesn't mean that their goals have been achieved, because they haven't. I don't think that they had a lot of goals pertaining to the regular season. I think they have a lot of goals that are pertaining to the postseason, and all of those goals are obviously still achievable. And I do think that Tuesday night's milestone, clinching the number 1 seed, only helps them to be able to achieve those postseason goals. They still have to go out and do it, but ultimately this is something that should be celebrated. Should be celebrated by the team, should be celebrated by the organization. It should be celebrated by the fans. And I think it's a really, really cool thing. And it's something not to be taken lightly, because while I believe that the Cavs are going to be a championship contender for the next several years, they are firmly, in my opinion, in a championship window. You don't know that they're ever going to be the 1 seed. You don't know that they're ever going to win 60 plus games again in a season. It's happened like 4% of all seasons ever. It's happened. It just doesn't happen very frequently. And I think that this is something that Cavs fans should cherish. I think it's a really cool thing. And I do think that the team took some time to celebrate this, and I think that they should have. Again, their goals are not accomplished. This team is not done, but I think Tuesday night is a really cool milestone for that group, and I think it should be treated as such. Now, how did they get there? How did they beat the Bulls? Darius Garland had a really big game, something that I do think is just worth noting as the postseason grows close. We're going to talk about the actual game against the Bulls next, right here on Locked On Cavs. Today's show is brought to you by BetterHelp. Taking care of your mental health is just as important as taking care of your physical health, but traditional in-person therapy can be expensive, often ranging from $100 to $250 per session. That's where BetterHelp comes in, because with online therapy, you get quality care at a price that makes sense, saving you both time and money. Therapy isn't just for the toughest moments in life. It can help with everyday stress, learning how to set boundaries, developing positive coping skills, and so much more. Having access to support when you need it can really make a big difference in your life. Your well-being is so worth it. So visit betterhelp.com/lockedonnba today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedonnba, LOCKEDONNBA to get 10% off your first month. Again, betterhelp.com/lockedonnba. Thank you again for making Locked On Cavs your first listen today and every day. Like I said earlier, you can find the show anywhere you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, anywhere else. Drop us a 5-star rating. Leave us a nice review. Be a friend. Tell a friend about Locked On Cavs. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure a friend is subscribed as well. And make sure you're also subscribed to the Locked On Cavs daily newsletter for expert analysis, insider insights, and all of the playoff action delivered right to your inbox for free. Plus, if you subscribe now, you will be entered to win one of these 3 amazing prizes. There is a $2,500 Best Buy gift card to upgrade whatever it is that you need to upgrade, a $300 gift card with Game Time, or a $200 Fanatics gift card. Again, easy and free to enter. Simply subscribe between now and April 30th to be automatically entered to win. Head on over to lockedondaily.com. That is lockedondaily.com for more. So on Tuesday night, the Cavs did beat the Bulls 135-113. Of course, that did clinch the number 1 seed, as I mentioned in the first segment. But Darius Garland had a really good night against Chicago. And I think this was something that Darius Garland probably needed. It's not as if he's been playing his best basketball. And this was something I asked Kenny Atkinson about after the game, because Darius, and I know a lot of you guys have seen the numbers floating around about what he's been since that game against New York, or even post All-Star break, but his games have not been great lately. So against Sacramento, 4 of 13. Against the Spurs, 6 of 16. Against the Knicks, 8 of 15. That was an okay game. Against the Clippers, 5 of 14. Against Detroit, 7 of 17. Like, he's just not been Darius Garland. He hasn't shot the ball well. He hasn't gotten to his spots well. He's turned the ball over a little too frequently. When you look at, those last 5 games, he had 12 turnovers in 5 games. That's just unacceptable for somebody that's as good as Darius is. So against Chicago, I thought he was awesome. He had 28 points. He was 6 of 10 from 3. He was 10 of 17 overall, had 5 assists, just 1 turnover, only played 29 minutes. Obviously, with the Cavs winning in blowout fashion, he wasn't needed to play 30 plus minutes, but I think that this is the type of game, and we don't know as of right now. And I kind of, if I were to guess, we're not going to see the starters play heavy minutes. Maybe they play one more game. Maybe Friday against New York could make sense for them. But if this is the last game that Darius plays before the postseason, which, I don't know is likely, but it's possible. I think this is a really good finishing point for him. I think that he admitted as such, kind of needed to see the ball go through the basket a little bit more than he had. He needed to have a game like this. And, is this coincidental with Donovan Mitchell being out with that ankle sprain? And we'll talk about that coming up in a little bit too. Maybe. Like, I thought the most predictable thing from Tuesday night was, hey, Donovan Mitchell's out. Ty Jerome's going to have an awesome game. And Ty was really, really good in the minutes that he played. He had 18 points. He was a plus 23 off the bench for the Cavs. But Darius needed to have a night like this. And I don't know if it was because he had to carry an extra weight with Donovan being out, or if this was just his night, or if it was because it was against a bad team where the Chicago Bulls didn't play a ton of guys. Like Kobe White didn't play, Josh Giddey, Nikola Vucevic. Like, the Bulls on Wednesday play the Miami Heat, and they very, very clearly sent the message, hey, we don't care what happens Tuesday in Cleveland. We need to beat Miami on Wednesday. Like, that was the message Chicago sent. I don't know what of those things impacted Darius's game on Tuesday night, but I do know that going into the postseason, the Cavs are going to need Darius to be at or near his best for a postseason run. To get to where they want to go to, there's a number of things that need to happen. Darius is not all of them, but Darius is some of them. He's going to need to have more games like this one when the postseason arrives. And I think that, again, if this is the last we see of him, and I don't know that it will be, but I think that this was a really good place for him to end his regular season. I think he needed to get a little bit of that swag back that Kenny Atkinson mentioned, and it was something that he agreed with. He needed to see the ball go through the net. He did that. He got hot in the second half. And it's not as if the game was entirely out of reach. Like, the Cavs screwed around in the third quarter. They got sloppy. They were up by as many as 27. And then Chicago came back, and I think they were able to cut it to like 7 or 8 at one point. They cut the lead to, and it was just the Cavs stopped playing good basketball. They gave up 37 points in the third. And then, to open up the fourth, they locked things back down and they were fine. So ultimately it didn't matter. But Darius was a big part of that. Like, he was a big part of being able to put Chicago away in a way that the Cavs have kind of struggled lately, putting opponents away, right? Like, we saw them build a lead against the Kings and they couldn't put them away. We saw them build a lead against the Spurs by 16 points in the second half, or 17 points or whatever it was, and they couldn't put them away. So even though this was a lesser Bulls team, putting them away was a good sign, and Darius Garland was a big part of that. Now, doing this in the playoffs is obviously going to be different than doing this against essentially the Windy City Bulls on Tuesday night. But I think that this is a little bit of positive momentum for Darius going into the postseason. And how much does momentum matter going into the playoffs? I'm not really sure, just because there are 10 days from now before the Cavs will play their first playoff game on April 20th. And that is something that you look at and say, okay, that's a lot of time. Like, the Cavs can lose momentum between now and then. And Darius could lose momentum, but this could also be a thing where, hey, it's kind of like he gets a little bit of confidence back. He sees the ball go through the basket. And obviously the Cavs are going to be healthier when the postseason arrives than they are right now. And Donovan Mitchell is certainly part of that. But I think there are a number of guys just dealing with minor things. And if I had to bet, Darius Garland is probably in that category, just because it's been a long season for him. This was the 74th game that Darius has played in, which, as you might imagine, is the most basketball that he's ever played in his career. This is the first time Darius has ever played 70 or more games in his career. He's played 74. He's been very durable. Yes, his minutes are the lowest they've ever been, but I do believe I need to go check the totals here, but he's going to finish close. He might not quite get there, but he's going to finish pretty close to playing the most minutes he's ever played. And in the season where he's played a lot of minutes before, what's happened? He hasn't been able to run through the tape at the end of the season. You go back to the first year he was an all-star. Yes, he dealt with a back injury near the end of the season. He was carrying a very, very heavy lift for the Cavs that year they made the play-in, but he kind of ran out of gas at the end of the season. Donovan Mitchell's first year, he played almost 2,500 minutes that year. and he was not his best in the postseason. This year, he's at a little under 2,300 minutes. It's more games, obviously, it's less minutes per game, but is he going to be fresher? I think that week off between the regular season and the postseason is going to be a really, really big deal for him. The other thing that was notable about Darius Garland on Tuesday night was so he was asked about Evan Mobley's Defensive Player of the Year candidacy, and he gave a pretty strong endorsement, as you would imagine any teammate does. But he definitely took some shots at Draymond Green while doing so, because Draymond is now the leader in terms of odds. And at this point, I think it would be a surprise with how the odds are trending if he didn't win it, not necessarily because I think Draymond deserves it. That's not where my vote would go if I had a vote. But Darius spoke about Evan. He said, Evan Mobley, one personal foul tonight. That's good. He doesn't hack. He doesn't scream at refs. He goes and blocks shots. His deflection numbers are through the roof. He guards 1 through 5. I mean, what doesn't he do? I mean, he just doesn't express it how other people express it. If you look at the numbers, you watch a Cavs game, you see all the impact that he does for us on both sides of the ball, not even defense, but since we're on Defensive Player of the Year, blocks, deflections, switching out 1 through 5 on elite guards. And he went on to talk about how it's a very guard-dominated league right now, which, he is correct about. And then he finished it up by saying, that's just a little bit of my case. I can go on Twitter, go on a podcast like this one, Locked on Cavs. Darius, the invite is there, man. And go do the same thing for him. But I'm going to let him talk his talk whenever he wants to. And then Evan did talk about that. And I think this race will be a very interesting one. Yes, the odds very much favor Draymond Green. I would expect Draymond to win it just because of where the odds are. Like I said, I wouldn't vote for Draymond Green. That's not where I would go if I had a vote. I don't have a vote, so it doesn't matter what I think as far as this goes. But ultimately, I think that we're going to start to see the conversation probably ramp up quite a bit over the next week or so, because ultimately that's when ballots are due. The biggest thing to come out of Tuesday night, other than Darius Garland having a big game, other than the Cavs clinching the 1 seed, is the update we got on Donovan Mitchell's ankle. I will tell you what I know next right here on Locked on Cavs. Today's show is brought to you by Robinhood. With Robinhood Gold, you can now enjoy the VIP treatment, receiving a 3% IRA match on retirement contributions. The privileges of the very privileged are no longer exclusive. With Robinhood Gold, your annual IRA contributions are boosted by 3%. Plus, you also get 4% APY on your cash in non-retirement accounts. That's over 8 times the national savings average. The perks of the high net worth are now available for any net worth. And the new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. To receive your 3% boost on annual IRA contributions, sign up at robinhood.com/gold. That is robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rate subject to change. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold at $5 a month for 1 year from first match. Must keep funds in IRA for 5 years. Go to robinhood.com/boost. Over 8 times the national average savings account interest rate. Claim is based on data from the FDIC as of November 18th, 2024. Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold LLC. Thank you again for making Locked on Cavs your first listen today and every day. Like I said earlier, you can find the show on YouTube. And if you're watching right now, do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button for me, click subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the latest Locked on Cavs content. Donovan Mitchell did not play in this game. Obviously, he was ruled out before we recorded yesterday's podcast. And obviously, if you watch this, you knew he didn't play. But there were some good things as far as Donovan Mitchell goes to come out of Tuesday night. Kenny Atkinson, of course, was asked about Donovan's ankle prior to the game, and he said that he would categorize this as a mild ankle sprain. Mild is obviously about as good as you could hope for. Maybe if he would have said minor, you'd feel a little bit better. And before the game, Kenny basically said the plan for Donovan would be a little bit dependent on whether the Cavs won or lost on Tuesday night. And I think that is a good sign, because that was sort of his way of leaving the door open to Donovan playing in the regular season again. Like if the Cavs needed Donovan Mitchell to play before Sunday to clinch the 1 seed, that comment, reading between the lines, to me says, okay, if the Cavs really needed him to play, he would play. We didn't ask, like, if this is a playoff game, would he be playing today? We didn't ask him. Maybe we should have. I don't know. But that to me left the door open and said, okay, maybe we haven't seen the rest of Donovan Mitchell's regular season. Maybe there is still a game left to play. He was on the bench during this game. He was in the locker room after the game. He was not wearing a protective boot. He had on normal shoes. I don't know if he had like a compression sleeve on under that or anything. I don't know, but I do know he wasn't in a walking boot, and that's a good sign too. And at this point, with the Cavs having locked up the 1 seed, I don't really think that there's an avenue for them to get the top overall seed. I don't think they care about that. I do think they cared about the 1 seed in the East. I don't think they care about the best record in basketball. I don't think they care about trying to edge out OKC, which at this point they would have to win out, and OKC would have to lose a couple games to happen. And I just don't know that it's going to happen. So I think that we should not see Donovan Mitchell until game 1 of the playoffs. I don't think he has anything to gain in the final 3 games of the regular season. I know he has nothing to prove in the final 3 games of the regular season. These 3 games for the Cavs are not going to mean much. They're not. There is no reason to put Donovan Mitchell on the floor before he is 100% healthy. Now, if he's not 100% healthy by time game 1 arrives next Sunday, it becomes a different conversation. But he should not play in a regular season game unless he is 100% healthy. And even if he is 100% healthy, I'm still not sure that it's worth playing Donovan Mitchell in a regular season game. There's nothing to gain from this. The Cavs have nothing to prove. Donovan has nothing to prove. His standing as one of the top players in basketball is set. That's not going to change. What's he going to do in the final 3 regular season games that's going to sway anybody that has a vote for first team All-NBA or MVP that says, you know what, I was unsure about Donovan, but this game he had in a game that mattered nothing against the New York Knicks on a Friday night really pushed me over the edge to make him first team All-NBA. I think if that is part of the criteria, that's really silly. At this point, the Cavs are who the Cavs are. Donovan Mitchell has been who Donovan Mitchell has been. His body of work should be more than enough. Like if somebody has him 5th in MVP, which is where I would have him, if somebody has him on the first team All-NBA, which is where I would have him, I don't think your mind should be changed because he didn't play in 3 meaningless games at the end of the season. And if you don't have him in 5th place on your MVP ballot, if you don't have him first team All-NBA right now, what is he going to do in the final 3 games that's going to change that? Nothing, because these games don't matter, right? So I just think that the number one thing, the most important thing that the Cavs can do between right now, which is 12:32 in the morning on Wednesday, April 9th, and whatever time tip-off is of game 1 between the Cavs and whoever the 8 seed is on April 20th, the most important thing the Cavs can do is prioritize health. I don't think that by playing Donovan Mitchell, his health is being prioritized. Do you want to keep him in basketball shape? Absolutely. Do you want to keep him being able to do things at game speed? Absolutely. Those things all matter. But what matters more is being healthy, because the Cavs are not going to be healthy. The Cavs are not going to accomplish their goals if they're not healthy. That's what matters most. Donovan Mitchell is at the top of that list. The ankle sprain, I think the Cavs dodged a bullet. I do. I don't think that there's much to be concerned about with this long term. This is not something I would expect to linger into the postseason. I anticipate that when the Cavs begin the postseason, Donovan Mitchell is going to look like Donovan Mitchell and everything is going to be okay. But there's no reason to see what Donovan Mitchell looks like until that point arrives. There's nothing to gain by playing him in these last 3 regular season games. If the Cavs want to play other guys to keep them fresh and competitive, while being conscious of their minutes, while making sure they stay healthy. Different story. But Donovan Mitchell dealing with an ankle sprain, no reason to rush him. Everything that can be taken care of has been taken care of by the Cavs. Everything in their control has gone great. There's no reason to try and make this something more than it already is. And again, after the game, he was in the locker room, not wearing a protective boot. Kenny Atkinson said before the game, it is a mild sprain, and that they would be talking about what the plan is, not just for Donovan, but for everybody in the remaining games of this regular season. I just think, personally, that there's nothing to gain by putting him back out on the floor until the postseason arrives. He's proven everything he can prove. He's done everything he can do. At this point, the only thing Donovan Mitchell is going to be judged on the rest of this basketball season is what happens in the postseason, and there should be nothing done between now and then to jeopardize him being at 100%. That's what should matter to the Cavs most. We'll see if that's the case, but that is the direction I would go. Ultimately, I think that's probably the most likely thing. I would be surprised, not shocked, not stunned. There are things in the NBA that still shock me, like, I don't know, Denver firing Michael Malone on Tuesday. But I would be surprised if Donovan Mitchell plays before the postseason. I don't think it's the best idea. But the Cavs did get good news because that ankle sprain is, as Kenny Atkinson characterized it, just one that should be considered mild. But before we get out of here, I want to say thank you for making Locked On Cavs your first listen today and every day. You can find the show anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, anywhere else. Drop us a 5-star rating. Leave us a nice review. Be a friend. Tell a friend about Locked On Cavs. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure a friend is subscribed as well. And if you're watching the show on YouTube, do me a favor. Hit that thumbs up button for me. Click subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the latest Locked On Cavs content. Also, the Inside Shot on sale right now. 30% off the Inside Shot yearly subscription. So if you're looking for more Cavs coverage from me, that is one of the places to go. Check out the Inside Shot. A link is in the episode description. But I will be back tomorrow talking more about the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. That's right, the Cleveland Cavaliers.